Good afternoon, folks. Today is March the 23rd, and I am finally going to do an update video for you on the greenhouse and how it survived the cold winter months here in Missouri. I'm going to take you on a quick tour, show you how everything is doing, and going to discuss with you briefly my thoughts on the greenhouse, the heat sink that we are using, and whether I would recommend anybody else do it, and if I would do it again if we built another one. Let's get started. Alright, let's start at the kale. As you can see, it has begun to go to seed because I was neglecting it the last 2 months and did nothing with it. All of the plants that are currently in the greenhouse, with the exception of the radishes and potatoes that were started in the last 30 days or so, are the same plants that we started our winter with. They've all survived. We did lose the dill and the cilantro because I forgot to turn the fan on. I was doing a tour with some people, showing them the greenhouse, kicked off the blower so that we could talk. I walked out and forgot to click it on, and that night the temperature got down to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. We lost the dill, the cilantro. I had a little bit of damage to the cauliflower. I lost several of the heads, and I have some head damage to some of the cabbage, but everything else survived. The greenhouse worked, and let me walk you down here to the next section of the garden, and we'll continue talking about if I would do this again. Alright, here are the collard greens. Again, they've begun to go to seed, and to my left is the broccoli. Same thing, going to seed. Was not taking care of them over the last 2 months. They got to the end of their life cycle and have started to reproduce. So the greenhouse, it worked, it did. But I don't know that I would ever do this again, and I don't know that I would recommend that somebody else do it. Why? Okay. We don't have enough days of sun, or did not have enough days of sun, to adequately charge our heat sink to really keep the temperatures where I was hoping to get them. It was warmer in the greenhouse than outside. There was a significant temperature difference between the inside and the outside, but it didn't do what I wanted. Until we got really low temperatures, the greenhouse did well, but as we approached 0 degrees Fahrenheit, I needed to take extra measures to protect the greenhouse. I really believe that you could do the exact same thing to include these extra protection measures with a normal geothermal system and save yourself a whole lot of money. The rock heat sink, the rock itself, the hauling, and putting it in was a lot of money. If you did just a geothermal air and what I'm about to show you, you could have the same results without all the cost. Alright, let me show you how we kept this thing alive through the winter. When our outside temperatures got down into the teens in Fahrenheit, the greenhouse temperatures were getting close enough to where I was concerned that we might start losing crops. We took our mini hoops here, we put them over the grow boxes, and we covered the moderately hardy crops with plastic, kind of like what you see here. I took this 4-inch drain tile and I connected it to, this is the air returning from the heat sink back into the greenhouse. So we connected another length of that drain tile and run it underneath the plastic. And this was a recommendation that somebody made in a video a few months past. I forget your name. We used it. Thank you. This was not my idea, but it worked. And I have this plastic just thrown over there haphazardly to give you an idea of what we did. With the blower running, that temperature around 50 degrees was coming out of the heat sink when it was 0 degrees outside, and it was putting the air underneath the plastic and keeping the plants warm. The inside of the greenhouse was significantly colder than the temperature under the plastic, but because of that plastic, and the air blowing in at 50 degrees from the heat sink, everything survived. And we did the same thing. You can see the crazy tall hoops that I made for the broccoli. It all survived. It worked remarkably well. You could do this in your greenhouse without the additional expense of a heat sink with a geothermal system. Just bury a bunch of the tubing in your yard, have a fan to push the air through it, and for each of your grow boxes, do a mini hoop, cover it with plastic, and take one of the tubing from your air system and put it directly into the bed. The same thing, and save yourself thousands of dollars. If we had sun consistently, the heat sink would have worked. There were times where we would go 5 days to 9 days before we would have sun. The first couple of days after a full day of sun, the heat sink worked well, but when there was no more hot air to recharge the heat sink, it was simply working like a geothermal system. I didn't have any true benefit from the heat sink. All right, let me take you on a quick tour of the rest of the garden. I'm getting ready to rip all of these plants out, particularly the stuff that has gone to seed, refill the boxes, and get it growing again. In light of the coronavirus that's going through, I want to get this greenhouse up and functional. Just beyond that tub that you're seeing there are radishes, and they're long past ready to eat, and they're getting ready to go to seed. On this side of the tote in the same grow box are potatoes. I have 3 varieties of potatoes that I put in with the intention of having new potatoes from them for us to eat. They've been in a little over a month and are doing very well. Beyond the potatoes there, of course, are the onions that you've seen in past videos, and that mess of other stuff to the left of them is all the spinach. Again, I've not done anything out here for a couple of months, and they are all in the process of going to seed. Beyond the spinach is a little more of the kale. Same thing, it's flowering, going to seed, and after this video is done, all of that is going to come out so that we can put in the next batch of seedlings. We are well prepared for the coronavirus. We are not concerned, but I do want the security of having this greenhouse up, running, and producing food for us. With gardening season coming back, or nearly here, we will be making videos once again. All right, folks, if you have any more questions on the greenhouse that I've not already covered in however many other greenhouse videos we have, I'd be happy to answer them for you. Here's our collard greens, by the way. They are also going to seed. Love us some collard greens. They are rough. I should be ashamed of myself for having the greenhouse and not utilizing it, but the truth of the matter is I have been neglecting this for 8 to 10 weeks. All right, folks, thanks for watching. If you're still with me at this point, please take the time to rate the video. Let us know what you think, and happy gardening.